Everyone, I'm Lettie. I'm back today with my podcast about weddings and event planning. I've spoken to you guys about selecting your venue and how that part goes about. And today I have a good friend with me and a professional in the florist industry. And this is Christina Price. She's with Homestead Floral, Weddings and Events. And we're just going to talk a lot of dialogue today about the floral industry and the do's and don'ts. And again, she's a professional in this area. She does tremendous work. I'm so grateful that I have the experience to work with her. And so she's going to provide a lot of things. And again, I have my notebook here, and you might want a notebook too to jot down some things that she's going to share with us today, because it's a lot in the floral industry, and Christina will share that with us today. So Christina, welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and share with us how you got started in the floral industry, your experience, all that good stuff, because I know you've been doing this for quite some time.
I've been doing it, this year marks 40 years that I've been doing it. I actually started in high school. I took horticulture and I really loved it, and I continued, and I actually went to James Rumsey for a couple years, and then in high school I worked part-time on holidays at a florist, and then I just continued after I got out of school and worked at different florists throughout the years. I learned a lot from each florist that I worked at, and I just developed my own skills and been doing it ever since. So
40 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, I feel old.
So you, right, well, you're really not. So you specialize in weddings and events.
Yes, I do now.
So tell us a little bit about, since you've been in it for 40 years, you obviously worked in the retail floral industry, and now you're specializing. How long have you been doing just the weddings and events?
I got my business license in 2020, the fall of 2020, when COVID happened.
Interesting time to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really didn't start doing anything until 2021, so that's how long I've been doing it. And each year it grows and just keeps growing and growing, and I'm really grateful for that. So
good. So tell us about the difference, because I know there's a huge difference from retail florist to event florist. So tell us how that would be different from what you did before to now, and how that process goes.
Well, retail florists, when they get flowers in, they're selling them, and you want them to last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long. With an event florist, you get the flowers in, and you want them to be open at their premium look on the wedding day. So you have to allow them time to open up for the wedding day, where in retail, you don't want to buy something already blown that's going to die in a day or two. You want something that's going to last. And I think with me being an event florist, I can offer more to a bride than a retail shop can. I'm sure there's some bigger retail florists that can do it, but certain installations, arch pieces, things like that. So, because when I did work retail and a florist, I did weddings, but they were never to the scale that I do now.
Awesome. And a retail florist, they're creating stuff every single day.
Right.
They get calls, I'm assuming, to do anything.
Right.
Even, I think, we don't think about it, but I think the retail florists do probably a lot of funerals, and that's like you call and they need it the next day, or a get well thing, or anything that we would send flowers for. Right. How is the schedule different for you from the retail industry to now what you do? How does that look? Do you have free time? There's no free time.
No. When I was working retail florist, minimum's working 40 hours a week. Maximum, you could be working 70, 80 hours a week, especially if it's a holiday. Now, I create my own schedule, and I'm able to have time off and enjoy my grandchildren and my husband, and we can do things. We can actually enjoy the holidays now. When I was working retail,
you had to be there for the holiday.
You didn't get to really enjoy the holidays. Not that I didn't love that, but I think at the end I was getting really burnt out, and I needed to
take a break. But this is something. So in saying that, doing the events and doing, well, I keep saying events, but you mainly do weddings. When do you actually start, once you book with a client, and we'll get more into that, but when do you actually start with those flowers for a wedding that's on Saturday? I know sometimes people have weddings on Fridays and Sundays these days.
Right.
That's kind of changed, but in some perspective, but majority are on Saturdays. When do you start that process and what you do?
I usually, once I meet the bride, she books me, and it's getting closer to her wedding date. I usually have a recipe of what I'm going to use. And then I go through and figure how many of this I need. And then I book my flowers with my wholesaler anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks out. I get my flowers the week of the event, usually on a Tuesday. Because of being a specialty florist, I can get deliveries on Tuesdays, not on Mondays. I condition them, I get them all open, everything, and then I allow them a few days to open. Then I do some prep work ahead of time. There's arrangements, things like that. I get like containers, that ready, corsage, ribbons, bracelets, all that stuff ready. And if I have to source any like dried goods, I go ahead and do that ahead of time also. And then usually that Thursday, I start doing some of the wedding work. And then by Saturday morning, everything's ready and out
So
to
it pretty much takes you all week.
Yeah, it does.
Wow, that's
Not 8
such
hours
a-
every day, but I'm doing something every day to lead up to that. So
Right. Well, I'd say it's a process and it's a true art form because you create and design. It really takes a lot of time and takes some expertise and work. So well, that's pretty interesting.
And I will mention, while I was off with COVID and then I got my business license, I did take some online classes to update my skills, especially with weddings, because it is a little more different than just being in retail. So
Give us an example of something that you
wedding
that
bouquets.
class, maybe something you were like, wow, this is different, and apply something different from retail because you're just putting an arrangement together, then putting this amazing thing for a wedding.
You can flex roses and so they're open more. Also, too, just the mechanics behind installations, like arch pieces and chandelier pieces and things, learning the installation part of that and how to attach things. Just designing the way, there's so many different ways or techniques to design a wedding bouquet, or even just bouquets in general. And I've actually tried all these different types of techniques and to see what I like or how well it goes. And not every wedding I will use the same technique. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, let me try it, do this way or whatever. And
it probably keeps what you do interesting because when you do it over and over again, it's probably neat to try different things. But say that I am a bride, I'm searching out, I've found my venue, all that stuff, and now it's time that I want to book my floral. So how does, I contact you, then tell us how that process goes. Where does it start? What do you do when you meet with a bride? How does that whole process work, I guess?
Usually how a bride reaches out to me is either through an intake form on my website. Sometimes I'll get DMs or an email, and I congratulate them. I thank them for their interest in my services. And then I ask them if they have any type of inspiration photos they'd like to share with me. Also, too, when they have availability. And I can do phone, Google Meet, I can meet in person, or sometimes I just do email with a bride. Sometimes I don't meet the bride until the day of the wedding.
Okay.
So. And once we establish how we're going to meet and when, then I meet with them. I have a form that I go through and ask them all the details of the venue, the time of their ceremony, their photographer, if they have a wedding coordinator, and I also ask them if they have a budget. Some don't want to share, which is fine.
Right.
But it gives me a better idea of what they're looking at, and especially when they're showing me inspiration photos and saying, well, I could see this in your budget, or hey, it's like
over your budget.
It's like way over. And then I proceed to just start with the bride's bouquet. I ask them their color palette, what the girls' dresses are, and the tuxedos or suits that the guys are wearing. And then we just go down the line, brides, bridesmaids, flower girl, groom, so forth. And then with the parents, and then anything for the ceremony, and then the reception. And once we're done meeting, I work on the proposal. I come up with a recipe of flowers and colors and a price, and then I send them a proposal with a contract. And then if everything looks good on the proposal and they're ready to move forward, they just sign the contract, and then I require 25% down, and then the balance is due 30 days prior to the wedding. If there's something in the proposal that they don't like, they want to change, maybe it's a little too expensive, if I can work it to where I can make the price less expensive, I will do that. I'm more than willing to do that, and then resend it to them.
So in that, what would you say an average budget would be in all the work you've done so far in these 6 years?
Most weddings anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500. Some more.
Right, so, depending on what they want.
Depending on what they want, because you got to consider the size of your bridal party, how many girls you have. Some people only have like 2 girls. Some people have 10 girls. What you want for your ceremony, whether it's just be a simple arch piece or just an elaborate ceremony piece to make a statement, anything in the aisle or the beginning of the aisle. And also, too, remember, any of that stuff that can be utilized and be repurposed at the reception to save you money.
Yes.
And then also, too, depending on what you want for your reception, it can be very simple but elegant, or it can be very elaborate. So those are the things that.
So you'd say the higher price items, I know when, again, I've had the awesome opportunity to work with you, but I feel like the biggest cost are going to be those arch pieces if people use the arch or an installation.
Right.
They're going to require.
To me, some people are like, oh, it's just flowers. But it might be just flowers, but it makes a statement.
Absolutely.
It creates an atmosphere. And it's something, especially when they have their photographer and they're taking photos, it's something that they're going to remember forever.
Right. And in those pictures forever, yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about the contract and sitting down with the bride. And you also referenced, you asked them if they have any inspiration pictures. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So we live in a world today where there's lots of trends and styles, and we have Pinterest and we have social media and TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We live in a world now where there's so many things in front of our face, and we get all these great visions and these great ideas, and that's wonderful that we have them. But I think sometimes, I think that when you and I have worked together, we've found it's great to have them, and it's great for a bride to show you something she's interested in. But tell us how that can hurt and how that helps.
It helps because it gives me an idea of what the bride is looking for. It gets me in her head to say, this is her vision, style that she likes. And right. It hurts because some people expect it to look exactly like the photo when I'm not the one who originally did it. So I'm not going to be able to make it like the photo. Plus with AI now, so many brides have sent me pictures and they're not real.
Well, that's
it's true. AI and they're beautiful, but I'm like, this is way too perfect because no flower is
going to be perfect.
Is perfect. And I'll either tell them, are you aware that this is artificial? Are you aware this is AI? And sometimes they do know, sometimes they don't. But for me, I mainly go off color scheme, style, and sometimes the type of flowers they're showing me. And then I create my own thing.
And I think another thing with that is they could show you a picture of something that has these beautiful flowers, but they could be not in season, if that's such a thing, or they're very expensive and that's not in their budget category. So does that happen to you, and how do you adjust or help them, guide them, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, some will say, oh, can I get peonies? Yeah, you can get peonies if they're out of season, but you're going to pay much higher price for them.
Right.
And then sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, let's do something alternate, or we could try a garden rose or something like that. And if there is something truly expensive, I'll tell them. And for instance, I did one wedding and it had some tropicals and stuff in it, and I gave a price and the bride's like, oh, I can't afford that, it's a little too much. I'm like, okay, how about we scale it down? So we did one of this and one of that and scaled it down, still same scheme, but it was scaled down
affordable
and a much more affordable price for her. So you know, I can do that. But prices have gone up a lot since COVID, not just everyday stuff, but in the floral industry itself, because of the tariffs, because people don't realize that 90% of the flowers that are in the United States don't come from the United States. They come from other countries. And I mean, growers on the East Coast, West Coast, Florida, where a lot of greenery comes from, but like roses, things like that, I mean, they come from Ecuador, Colombia, Mexico, Canada, Israel, you know,
all over.
Right, Netherlands. I mean, they come from all over the world. So now you're affected by the tariffs. Most of the supplies, hard goods, come from China.
Oh, okay.
Bigger tariff. So you're not only being tariffed on the flowers, you're being tariffed on the supplies, and you know, like your containers, your tape, your oasis, your Sahara, your
all those
moss,
things that create this
right, your chicken wire, you know, everything. And so you kind of have to shift and adjust. And when COVID happened, a lot of greenhouses went under and, you know, closed up, and you know, farms and stuff. So
and then I'm sure if those areas have something that happens, hurricanes or you know, a natural disaster, I guess we could refer to it, have you? I mean, that affects.
Oh
some
yeah,
things
I mean,
too.
just recently with Florida, with the freeze that we all
Yeah, we've had a
had,
cold winter
that
everywhere.
I think it's Fern Trust Farm, and they had videos of how they were handling the cold with their plants, and they would run their sprinklers to form ice around their plants to protect them.
Wow.
And it
And that's going to
happens,
affect
right? And
your
then it affects
industry,
prices,
and then
right?
affect the prices. Wow, pretty interesting that you wouldn't even think of that when you think of florals or designing, but these are all things that you experience in your everyday world. I know sometimes you probably meet with a bride and they've maybe done some stuff on their own, but then they want some stuff for you to create, and so they've probably DIY'd some stuff. Do you even work with people that do that type of thing?
I do.
Okay.
And I mean, I know there's some florists out there that won't, absolutely refuse to do it. I do. I don't really have an issue with it. If I get pictures that are shared with me, I don't share anything that they've made on my social media. I only share what I've done, but I don't.
So in creating that, if you do allow that, do you ask them for, like, can I see what you've created? So
I have.
you can kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't share it with your photos, which obviously if it's not your work, you're not going to
Right.
share that. That makes sense.
Right.
But at least you have a background, because something that they show you that they want you to create might be completely different than what they've done.
Right.
You
So
run
I
into
do
that.
ask them, do you have the flowers that you're going to use, or have you made the bouquets, so I can kind of to make sure that hers is not like totally different, especially in color scheme, not so much
Yeah,
style,
maybe
because
not.
color
Most of
schemes
them
very
probably
similar.
use silks. If they're DIYing, wouldn't you say majority of people
Yes.
probably use silks and not fresh?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would think, being in the floral industry, most people, if they're going to create their own things, are probably going to go to the grocery store and get florals.
Yeah.
And how does that work? I mean, how do you feel about? I think going in the grocery store when I'm going to do something small for something, it's just random stuff that's there. You don't get to pick what you want, right?
I mean, that's good and bad. I mean, it's nice that you can go to the store, and if you want to
Right.
pick up something quick, that's, it's great. But I think in a way also too, grocery stores have hurt the floral industry, because there was a time of day, especially when I was starting out, the only place you could get flowers
Where the florist
was at a florist. I use premium flowers. I don't use grocery store flowers. I get the best that I possibly can get from my wholesalers, and I give 110% to my clients,
That's awesome.
no matter how big or small.
Yep. Oh, I can vouch for that because I work with you a lot, and I can say that I'm always wowed by what you do, and it just gets better, and it's never a disappointment. So it's always fun to see what you can create.
You're just being biased.
create a vision for what they actually want to. So talk to us a little bit about, have you ever done work in the silk industry, or that a client might say, I choose that? How are silks different from fresh, and the price points? Is it any different? Are they more expensive, or?
They're about the same price. I mean, silk can be a little more expensive, especially like the real touch silk. Okay. I mean, you can go to Dollar Tree and buy silks, but they're icky.
Right.
You wouldn't want those for a wedding. But the fresh, I would say it's kind of 50-50, depending on what it is,
The only thing I guess maybe the positive is if they don't get it preserved, we'll talk about that later, but if they don't get it preserved, I guess it's something that they can have forever if they wanted to have it forever. It's maybe the positive of silks, but
I mean, some people like silks because it's something they want to save, and some people like silks because they're allergic to fresh, and they don't want to, have the smell and all that stuff. So
true. I do know some people that are allergic to flowers, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know if there was a difference. But that's pretty interesting. It's about the same price.
And I've done a few silk bouquets, not too many, because I don't carry a lot of silk product because I don't have the storage for it. And plus it takes a lot of money to have a little of everything.
Stocking.
And another difference between silk and fresh, in silk, you can get a lot more colors than you can in fresh. People will be like, can you do this color? No.
That's not going to happen.
I maybe spray paint it, but no, it does not grow that color.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So, that's pretty interesting. So when you're talking with a bride and they show you that inspiration and they say, I don't really care, I just want it to quite look like this. How do you share with them? Because I'm sure you run into more people that really don't know all the flowers that are out there than people that do know all the flowers. So how do you share with them we could do this. This would be similar. It looks similar to that, but it'd be this, and you're not going to have that cost. Like you referenced a peony a little while ago.
Right. Say they give me an inspiration photo of an arrangement they want, and say, it's $400, and they're like, can we,
Scale it back.
Right. So we can scale the arrangement down, make it smaller. Plus, a lot of times, if they don't know flowers, I can email them like flower choices that I have come up with to change it or to use less. Say if it has like 10 hydrangea, well, we could put 5 hydrangea in it, or, less roses, or more of something else that's less expensive, to still get that same look and feel. But
And so
without
on
the
that,
price.
the quote that you send them, and you have a recipe.
Right. And I do give them a certain amount of like what flowers. I think they get overwhelmed, or people would get overwhelmed if I like listed every single
Oh my
thing.
goodness, yes.
I kind of list a few and say, okay, this is going to be like such as blah, 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 blooms, like maybe roses, disc buds, whatever. And with greenery, I think if you give them, because I think brides will see this and then they'll be looking every single flower
That's
up.
what I'm saying. Do you have flowers? Do you show them the flower like in your?
No, I have either a picture of inspiration photo that they shared with me,
Right,
or if I have one, I'll utilize one to give them an idea of what it may look like. But I just have it in writing.
Yeah, that could get very overwhelming, especially when you do not.
Right.
They just want you to create this, but they have
Right.
no idea. I mean, I could only tell you a couple flowers, and I'm sure they can tell you. Like, I think people think of flowers as roses and carnations,
Right.
And
Right.
and I know I always pick on you because you enlightened me. Well, when I started working with you, and I'm like, I hate carnations. I told you
I'm
that,
like,
and you're
no,
like, Lettie,
they've come
come
a long
on,
way.
like there actually are beautiful carnations. So you definitely enlightened me,
yeah.
and you've proved me wrong on that. And so.
Another thing with the floral industry, they're coming out with like new varieties of stuff, new varieties of roses, new varieties of carnations, new varieties of, say, delphinium, whatever. It's constantly evolving. And you saying about the carnation, and that's the one thing I ask my brides when I meet with them. I'll ask them, do you have likes or dislikes of flowers? And some will be like, oh, I don't like sunflowers, or they'll be like, oh, I don't like carnations, and I'm like, oh, carnations have come a long way.
Just like you told me.
And that's good. And some will be like, I like everything. So. And then some are very specific. Some come to me and they go, I like this flower, I like this flower, I like this flower. I want them to
Don't like
incorporate
this
it.
one or that
Right.
one. Yeah.
And some.
then that can obviously make your job a little bit easier because
it does.
sets the tone for that recipe that you try to put together for them.
Right.
And I would think when a person plans their wedding time of year, so, the hot summer, I mean, it's blistering 100 degrees, 90 some degrees, the wedding's at 2 in the afternoon. I would think for fresh flowers, that's going to involve some organization and timing for you, as well as we have a winter wedding and you want a specific flower and it's not the best time, or like how you order them, how it works. So talk to us about how that impacts what you do to create this vision, that it's behind the scenes, all these things you have to do for the weather. I mean, how does that work? I mean, that would be a lot.
I mean, the weather does impact, especially if it's an outdoor wedding. One, you got to think of the wind, especially if they want material on the arch. It's not going to look like the photo.
We know
through
this.
that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And the other thing is, when I deliver everything, like all the bouquets, everything is in vases of water. So everything is delivered fresh. It's in water. It's getting a water source until it's ready to use. And as far as like arch pieces and stuff, I always make sure that they have plenty of water on them. Even like centerpieces, like your whiskey barrel pieces, I always make sure they have plenty of water on them before I leave. Especially if I'm using like hydrangea that use a lot of water, they love water.
They need water.
Yeah.
They just collapse.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen, not on my site, but I worked before. And it's unbelievable.
And
hydrangeas.
that is the one flower I kind of worry about when it's really, really hot outside, is that it's going to like die.
Really.
But I mean, I really
persnickety.
try to take the precautions of making sure everything is wet. I also use something that's called Crown and Glory that helps seals the flower, and it keeps the moisture in so it lasts longer. So that seems to help. But I mean, the heat, yeah. And I try to put everything out at the last minute if I have to.
Is there a timing factor with that you have to put it out at a certain time?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to put it out 4 hours prior to the wedding. So if it's an hour before, 2 hours before, It's good because I always like to be out of the venue at least an hour prior to when everybody starts arriving. Because a lot of people, as you probably know, arrive an hour ahead.
And so that brings up a good point too. So you want all these masterpieces created before your guests arrive. But there's also a part of that you want to have the things there at the venue so when the photographer and the videographer arrive, that they can capture these things before people are in the pictures, or they can utilize them for the bridal party pictures. And so typically, how do you do that when you're working with the bride? How do you know when to be there, how it works, when the venue, I mean, are there venues that you can only be there a certain time? Are there regulations?
Some that won't let you allow in like an hour or 2 hours prior to the ceremony, which is more complicated. But as like your venue, I can get there. The bride tells me or you tell me when the photographer is going to be there. Let's say the photographer is going to be there at 12. I'm there by 12. If it's, say, a hot day outside, but I have a lot of work to do inside the barn for the reception, I will do all that stuff first because it's shaded and more cooler, and then I'll wait to the last minute to put everything else out for the ceremony.
So you kind
That'll
of
be like the last thing I
organize
do.
your timeline for yourself, so you get everything so they can start taking pictures and then eat. Okay.
Right.
So talk about when you arrive to the venue. Let's say this is a pretty large-scale wedding where they do have installations at the reception place, and they do have an arch piece and things going down the aisle. How do you come prepared? Do you come with things prepared, or do you design some on site? Talk to us a little bit about that.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, some things will be pre-done, and then I'll finish it on site. I also figure like how many, like if I do a reception, it's like 25 tables, how long it's going to take me to do each table, and then I figure out my time. And then if I have like a ceremony piece arch that is partially done, but I got to finish it, then I say, okay, well, how much time is this going to take me to do? And I always allow myself a little extra time just in case there's any problems or I run into any issues. Don't want to be down to the wire.
Yeah, that could be a little bit tricky. We talk about arch pieces all the time. I know that I have everything prepared when you arrive at my venue, and I have a ladder out for you ready to go because I know the height, and we use zip ties so we can hold off. So we use your beautiful pieces, and then we try to utilize them somewhere else within their scheme or their vision, because it is a cost. We've talked about that. But tell us about when you get there. I just know what you do with me, and I know that you've been to many other places. Talk to us about how that can be different when you arrive somewhere else. Like, do you have to put it up? Is it set up? Do you have, what do you have? What are your resources?
I mean, at other venues, I have to bring my own ladder, step stool. I always verify that with the bride. And when there's a venue I've never been to, if I'm able to, I'd like to meet the bride at the venue so I can do kind of a walkthrough and get a feel for it of where I'm going to, be doing the work and where it's at. So I'm not like
sight unseen.
Right. Yeah. When I get there. So that is
At that time, do they share with you? Because installations, if the viewer doesn't understand what we're talking about, installation is a hanging piece and florals. So did they give you any foresight of like, they told us we can't hang something here, we can hang something, or how we have to hang it?
Yes, I would ask about that, like if they have beams that can be hung from. Some places won't let you put screws, nails, any kind of anything in.
Right. It could be tricky sometimes.
So yeah, and I haven't come across that yet, so we'll cross that bridge when it happens. But if I'm not able to do something, then I'm not able to do it. So. But.
Have you had to put arch things together or carry them, or I don't know? Have you had anything break? Or
Yes.
Oh boy,
not my fault.
I bet that creates. I've talked about this earlier about how you're working with your vendors, and there can be vendor stress because they're like, for you, at the end of the day, florals are the masterpiece. Other than the bride and groom, they're the masterpiece of the wedding, from what I've found out. And I always tell people, your florals make it. And I think you probably would feel that same way. But just in all my experiences, like some pictures that you get back, or just when you're watching the whole ceremony go down and you see it all developed, from my perspective, it's like a wow factor. And that's why I say sometimes it just astonished me. I'm like, wow, this is just beautiful. There are some behind the scenes things that happen that I know sometimes you and I have some things that happen, and we have a solution and we fix it, and it's never been a problem. But I can't imagine some things that you've probably experienced, and it's a, oh my,
Yeah.
moment. So
gotta
talk
be,
about that.
You got to be quick thinking, and you
Right.
got to be on your toes. So, I did have one instance that the client had purchased the arch, and the arch was not as thick or
Sturdy.
as I thought it would be to handle the pieces that I had to put on there. And right before I was leaving, thank God, the arch broke and snapped backwards.
Did you find a
And
way?
I thought I was going to die.
I bet you were. I bet you
But
were.
we were able to save it. Someone helped fix the bottom where it snapped at the at the base of it, and we were able to zip tie it, and it. Thank God it just went backwards, not forwards, so none of the flowers were damaged, and we were able to fix it, and the family was completely fine. But I'm very adamant, like if people say they're going to supply their own arch, make sure it's sturdy, make sure it is secured into the ground,
Right.
and because I don't want to take
Yeah, and so that's the
responsibility
next
for
thing I
that.
was going to say is like if people want to create their own or they're going to buy something, they really want to take in consideration it needs to be built well, it to be sturdy, not some flimsy. I don't want to say cheap, but a lot of times when things become flimsy, that they're inexpensive.
And when they're just showing them like on a display, like, oh, I'm going to buy that, it's usually silk or something. And of course,
Right.
silk is not heavy,
Right.
And it can handle it. But when you're talking about fresh and especially something large,
It's got that water base
got
that creates.
it's
They
got,
are.
it's
They're
got
very
weight.
heavy.
Yeah, it's got weight.
Yeah. So I know we chuckled about this together. So I feel like we kind of recommend this to people. They'll show us an inspiration of this beautiful arch, and it might have some sheer or some material, and it's beautiful, but they don't take in consideration that they're having a wedding outside, and we all know the wind is a factor.
Plays a
So
big
you and I have, and that can affect flowers. That sheer, you and I have worked on sheer before to create the vision, and we created it, and then a wind gust came in, and then that didn't go so well.
No.
So I know that you and I have told people here recently that if you're going to do it, just know that it might not look like that.
You got to be realistic.
Yeah, and I think it's better if you want to use it if you're doing something indoor.
Right.
I think that's something that we found, and it is it's frustrating to work with at times because we know what it's supposed to look like. We try to create that, and then we've ran into a situation where it's just not that kind of day, or wherever the setting is. I think you've done a wedding that was on the water, and on the water there always is a breeze.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
It was horrible.
just something to consider
yeah, it was very
for
windy.
future bride and grooms. That again, inspiration, and like we say, all these things are amazing, but to be realistic. Be realistic of your costs.
And a lot of them don't think about the wind.
Right.
They don't think about the weather. They're like, oh yeah, because it's a still picture. Everything's perfect.
Right,
And it's nothing's blown around.
Well, and two, if they have a floral arrangement outside that's not secured, just sitting on something, if it doesn't have substance and it doesn't have a lot of water in it, or it's not really that big, I've seen things that aren't that big and didn't have a lot of water in them. Just, I think are amazing. They create, it's beautiful. But when the wind comes, they're flopping over right and left. And as a coordinator or whoever your staff is, I remember one time it was the neatest thing. They had scriptures going down the aisles every other row. They had these beautiful scriptures, and it went with their theme, and it was awesome. But the wind was up that day, and I had a poor worker of mine. I'm like, keep setting them up. And for a whole hour, as guests arriving, that poor little kid was setting them up, setting them up, setting them up. And he's like, do I have to keep setting these up? I'm like, yes, it's what they want. We will do this. Well, that was the worst hour of that kid's life because, but it was because of the wind. So we all have these perspectives and visions like any of us would.
Or the one time the mirror fell over.
Yeah. And I'll say one time we had a wedding that you and I worked on, and they had an awesome photo booth area, and they had fascinators and hats. You remember that? And they had little mirrors that they were using so we could have put on our fascinator, check it out. Did we like it for the picture? And how the sun was beating on the mirror, it created a little fire. And we saw
hat
smoke.
on fire.
Catching a hat on fire, and Christina's like, hat's on fire. So, we had to put that out. So
Yeah. I didn't even think about it.
right, me either. And so now that experience, we just talked with a bride recently, and she was talking about having the mirror out, and we said, well, we'll have to set that out later. And how did you want to arrange your flowers? But take note, we won't do it till later because if the sun's beating that day, it could create that reflection to create that. So it's been fun. We've learned some things together,
absolutely.
and that's just something as when you're planning out your stuff, let's face it, we all have experiences that we learn from or we don't consider. And that's really why we're here is to enlighten people how this really works.
I mean, it's a learning, I mean, I'm learning every day. And
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm learning something new all the time.
Well, and two,
So-
like we have to
And
because the trends change
right.
all the time.
And with social media, you see so many people on social media designing this, that, or the other thing. And for example, boutonniere. Well, they'll show you how to do it this way, and then someone will show you how to do it this way, and then someone will show you how to do it that. There are so many different ways
None of
to
them are
create.
right or wrong, right?
To whether it be in a boutonniere, a corsage, a bouquet, an arrangement. There's so many ways to create something, and then you just have to find your niche. But the information that is out there now is just unbelievable.
And how do you think trends go? Like, do you definitely see trends, or do you think it's all over the place, or do you see trends? Like, I know probably when I first started working with you, I think you and I got so tired of the pinks and the mauves. I felt like we went through a phase that's all it was, and it was they were all beautiful.
Oh
They were
yeah,
all beautiful,
absolutely.
but I think
absolutely.
we both got tired of doing
But I
the same
wanted
colors.
to create something different.
Yeah. So do you think that that's still consistent, or you think it's changing a little bit?
The one thing I'm noticing this year, though, I mean, I had like especially the last few weddings, boho. I mean, and it's kind of fading out, but I mean, it's still got a thing, where boho is a big thing. A lot of pastels that I'm doing. Fall is still, a lot of neutrals and stuff, but nothing that really
Sticks out. I feel like I've seen like things get developed more on the West Coast.
And
it
then it
becomes a trend,
comes-
and then it eventually gets East Coast. So like I feel like what we're seeing some of the similarities now is older, and there's other like the new trends that are coming out won't hit here probably for like for where we live in our demographic.
And I mean, and baby's breath has been a big thing the last couple of years. A lot of baby's breath that kind of came back, because people hated it for a while, and now it's kind of come back again. And there's different varieties of baby's breath. It's just, people think, oh, it's baby's breath. No, there's so many different varieties. And they dye it now, and it's just amazing. But I'm not seeing that so much this year. I mean, a little bit, but not a whole lot. But
yeah, I think some of the things we were just talking about probably too vary for where you live, the demographics of the area you live. I have a good friend that's in the wedding coordinating industry, and they kind of resource out, like they put together the color schemes with the bride, and then they resource out the florist. So, everybody does it differently. And I know that they are in a big metropolitan area, and the budgets are unlimited for the most part. And so there's tons of installations, tons of design. They're into a big thing where they use tablecloths, and they're like floral tablecloths. They have that really neat look with the linen napkin and the plates, and then all the different things at the top, and like there's little lights, like little lamps going down the tables with candles and all these floral things. So that's a beautiful trend, and it's amazing. But that's in a high frequented area where people, like I said, the budget's unlimited, and it's a metropolitan city. So it's neat to see how it's different around the country from where you access. But you have the availability in what you do that you never know what your client's going to be.
Right. And the one thing I like is, though, when the bride brings her personality, when they add their personality to it, like whether it be deer antlers, horseshoes, books. One bride, her theme was Harry Potter. She loved Harry Potter, and it just went so beautiful with the flowers. And I just love that when they bring their personality and what they like.
Incorporate that into. I know one time we had like the bride's bouquet. You made around like a sword, like a dagger, and it was beautiful. So like the creativity, I'm with you there. It is nice when you know their personality instead of just create this and something that's special to them. If you can implement that into their florals, it's kind of neat.
It makes me excited, and my wheels start spinning, and I'm thinking, even when I first meet a bride and she starts showing me stuff, I mean, I'm thinking in my head of like, what it would look like, what can I use, and stuff. And I've just been doing it for a long time, so.
So how far out? Because, in our industry, you got to be ahead of the game or you're not going to get that date. And we know, I would say in our industry, fall is the most frequented time. It seems like everybody wants to get married in fall, but it is a really nice time. It's comfortable in temperature majority of the time. You got good colors with the foliage and all that. So I feel like, I mean, not that people don't get married in the spring and the summer, because they most certainly do,
Right.
but you run into different things.
Especially this winter.
Yeah, and then winter. I mean, but in our world, you take whatever client
Right.
comes, whatever they want is what you create. But how far out do you recommend? Like, I have bookings for 2028 right now.
Right.
That's a long time.
Not
I mean,
for- yeah.
you have your venue.
That's a little
long
too
time
early
out
for me.
So where do you recommend when a bride could meet with you, or what's the
Usually
time
6
frame?
months to a year. I mean, I've already had brides reaching out to me for next year, which, I'm talking to them, and some, they don't even know their color scheme yet and stuff. So, but if I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that they have to help them with the process. But usually 6 months to a year out is when I'll meet with a bride. It's kind of hard to do it out any further.
Well, and they could change their
especially-
mind.
Yeah.
And I would think that would make some challenges for you, because how long does it take you to put that whole quote and that recipe as you reference? How long does that take for you to put together?
Depending on how big it
Scale.
is, it could be, 2 hours, it could be 4 or 5 hours. I mean, just writing every single thing down and with the supplies that I need
So
and
if they come,
materials.
if I
and,
came to you and this is my theme and this is what I wanted, like a year and a half out, and then 6 months to the date, I'm like, Christina, I've changed my whole scheme. This is not what I want. Then you have to recreate all that. So that's a lot of work that goes into it.
And I mean, in certain flowers I'll be able to still use. Other things I might have to change out. But, I do it, and I don't, I mean,
It's
you
part
just
of
go,
the job.
You just
Yeah.
go with the flow.
It's part of the
So,
job.
Right.
So, and I've talked about when people select in their vendors about following up with them. I think the biggest thing is that to let people know that really does take amount of time. And if they get that quote from you and they decide not to use your services, I referenced just follow up to just let you know. Because again, you just spent, depending on the scale of the wedding, an hour to 4 hours putting this masterpiece together and how it's broken down. It would be a common courtesy just to let you know, thank you, that, but
And people do. I've not had any bride not come back to me and not respond,
That's
whether they were going to use me or not. And whether they use me or not, I'm just very grateful for the opportunity.
Right.
So, I mean, you win some, you lose some, and then you just keep moving forward. But I'm very grateful for everyone that has come across my path, and whether I've done their wedding or they chose not to use me for whatever reason. So,
And then how do you handle once you've completed the masterpiece, days over, as I said, I feel like it creates the whole vision other than the actual bride and groom themselves. So how do you showcase your work? Because everything that you do is, like you said, nothing's the same. You create this masterpiece, you do it different ways. How do you showcase that? And is easy? Do you get feedback after the wedding, or is that people don't follow through with that?
No, I do. I've either put pictures up that I took on social media, or if the bride and groom end up sharing photos with me, I'll share those on social media. I always ask my clients for a testimonial. Some will give me a testimonial, some will leave a review on Google. Some forget and just don't leave me a review. Some will text me and just are so in awe of everything and so grateful. Some will have called me and said thank you, or whatever, and then some I don't hear from at all. So it just depends.
Right. And then, so I know you asked them they're photographers. So do you ever get resources, like some photographers really good about following up with you?
Some
to give you work?
photographers will follow up with me and they'll share photos with me. Other photographers, I've given them my information and they just don't. So
yeah, and
I mean,
that would be really
I think
helpful.
that's one of the most frustrating things, is that I would really love to see more photos from clients, and to see how their day was and how it looked and everything, and just love to share that on my social media to people, and some share and some don't.
don't,
And I, you can't do anything about it.
No,
so.
you can't. But it'd be nice to see the resources.
Yes.
Because once you get
Yeah.
there and you create it, you're gone.
Right.
And so you'd like to see the all-out goal of how it turned out and what
Right.
they're doing. So I think that
Right.
would be good to just recommend to people. Don't forget to follow back up and also resource your photographer to help you get your stuff out there, just to show what it really looks like and how the day turned out. And so, you create these masterpieces, and we talk about some are small scale weddings, some are in a larger scale wedding, and what do you have to do? Do you do it all yourself, or do you have a team, or does anybody help you, or how does that work?
It's mainly me, but I do have people that help me. I have a dear friend that helps me who's been in the business and who's retired. I also have my sister, my brother-in-law, my son, my nieces and nephews that'll help if I need the extra help. Also, too, when my grandsons get a little older, they can help me lug stuff around. But yeah, I mean, when I have to have extra help, my family and stuff will help me.
Well, I will say,
which
I
I'm
know
very
one
grateful
time
for.
you created a really large scale floral wedding that that was at my venue, and listen, people, it's real. We started on Tuesday. I went and helped her just get the flowers prepped and whatever. I mean, it's a serious deal. We got these things together, and then I saw Christina create this masterpiece, and I'm going to tell you, it does take a week. And that was enlightening to me of all the work you do, all the steps in organization. I talked about organization, about everybody has to be organized, and it's a process, but you certainly have to be organized to when your flowers are coming in, what you're using, how you're prepping them, what they're going in. And I will say, when I came and helped you, that was really neat to just see that whole process through the week. So
Right, and if I get any kind of damaged product, then I gotta, take care of getting credit, getting it replaced. If I can't get it replaced, then I have to come up with something else to replace it, So it's, you gotta be on your feet. You gotta keep moving forward.
For sure. So it's been awesome having you here with me today, Christina. I know that I just enjoy working with you, and you do such amazing work. And I think you've shared a lot today that behind the scenes that most people wouldn't know. And there's probably some things that we didn't even talk about today. And Christina and I might be back with more to share, but is there anything that you would like to share with us today that is in your industry that might be interesting, or people might not know about?
I can't think anything offhand.
All right, well, if you don't know, again, this is Christina Price, and she has Homestead Floral Weddings and Events. Sorry about that. But please take a look, go to her website, and also follow her social media, Instagram. I think you're on TikTok too, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So follow that, because sometimes she has some really cool things. You can see how this process works. She does the prep work. I've seen her videos, prep work into the design, and it's really cool. Plus, if you are a client right now planning your wedding, and you want to know how this works, or you need a florist, check her out. Check her work out. It might be in your style. I think she, again, does fantastic work. But check her out, and I'll be back on, have some other vendors for you, and it's been great. Thank you, River Spirit Media, again, for hosting us, as they do awesome work, and we'll see you soon.